Fáilte everyone, you are very welcome to this another edition of Mind Your Precious Self with the intriguing title of Trim Tummies. Now there's an interesting statement. Tummies trim. Let me describe it a little bit. Now, as Dr. Karen Ward, I have an academic background, but this is really using the vernacular language that you might hear in the street, or you might hear in the gym, or indeed between a bunch of people talking together about their physique. Your tummy is your stomach, which is a bag with a tube at the top and the bottom to the side, and it sits above your navel. And because it's stomach, the tum, it gets the word tummy, probably when we're talking to children about it. Trim is an interesting word. You think of maybe trimming your beard if you're a man, you think of trimming your hair, you might think of trimming the garden, and it usually means shave off a couple of inches. Who amongst us wouldn't like perhaps to trim a little bit, a few inches off our stomach? Although interestingly enough, many of us mix up tummies with bellies. Your belly is your abdomen with a B, and it's below the navel. And both of them are part of our digestive systems. If you will, imagine from your mouth all the way down this big tube, the food goes down in what's called a bolus. It comes into that bag that is our stomach, our tummy, and it's going to sit there for at least 3 to 5 hours. And then it shoots out, having been processed, shall we say, partially digested, charming. And then it goes into what's called our small intestine. And this is like a big wiggly tube, and the food moves along, much in the way you might see an earthworm move along your garden. This small intestine in turn moves into your large intestine, which starts at the lower right hand point, moves up across the stomach and then down and then out through the anus, this massive big long tube. However, as humans, we don't really think about this part of our anatomy too much. We do, however, comment when extra weight goes on and there's a bulge. In other words, the area above the stomach grows bigger. The area below the navel grows bigger. The area above the navel grows bigger, being your tummy, your stomach, and the area below your navel, the belly, the abdomen, grows bigger. That's when we begin to take notice. However, perhaps up to that, we haven't really paid much attention to what's going on in this part of our body. I'm sure we all know a stomach ache or a belly ache, as it's called, but other than that, we may not notice. On the subject of trim tummies and wanting to have a flatter stomach, we have to keep in mind that as we grow older, we age. We're not going to have the same physique we had when we were teenagers. Sorry to say. And let's face it, gravity does come into the mix when everything begins to move south. But however, there's no need for us to abandon and think, oh yes, there's nothing I can do, I'm just going to put on weight. Not at all. This is a Mind Your Precious Self talk, as many of them are, geared towards optimum health, optimum energy, and we are not all one size fits all. We come in different portions, and we only have to look to our parents and then to our grandparents to realize, we are small, petite people. We are large, tall, big boned, whatever you want to call it. A cat will never be a dog. A budgie will never be a giraffe. We have to work with what we're giving. However, there are many wonderful things we can do to keep our tummies trim. So first of all is the really obvious one, what we put into this bag. Now, it's a finite size. However, many of us eat too much, too quickly. There's an expression, hoovering in your food. And therefore, the bag stretches. I'm sure you've heard that expression. Oh, I'm absolutely stuffed after that meal. Now, if you think about it, this bag with the tube at the top and then one here at the bottom, imagine like that, it moves, it churns our food. Where if it's stuffed to the gills, it can't churn the food. There's no space in there. It's a bit like if you fill your washing machine, stuff it full of clothes, then when you switch on the machine, it can't actually turn. The water has nowhere to go. Similarly with the stomach. It is said by wise people from many moons ago, our ancestors, that we should eat until we're 3/4 full. Think about that now. We should eat until we're 3/4 full. Now that's very wise, because it means that, that makes sense, that we give the bag a chance to churn and for all our digestive juices to act with this bolus of food, and then it moves off down into the small intestine. So the tip number 1 is to eat slowly and mindfully. Therefore, your body has a chance to register on getting to the full point, the 3/4 way point, and then you stop. If in your house you have those big fancy plates and those big goblets of gin and those huge wine glasses, they're lovely, but they do give us a false perspective. We might come from a family where you were told to eat everything on your plate. So instinctively you do, but this is a much bigger plate. Therefore, use your fancy plates, the big ones, but put a smaller one in the middle and fill that. And there's a lovely way of working with this where you think, I'm going to eat this and I know I can go back for seconds if I want. But more than likely you won't, because you will be full. Now, in that circumstance, your stomach, your tummy, gets used to regular food and the bag stays the size it should be. Whereas if we stuff it, the bag will, it'll stretch, and therefore you'd expect more food, and that means that you're eating more all the time, and your sounds that, oh, I'm full, are not going to be the same as if you were eating regular portions. So that's a really good tip. If you are listening to this thinking, oh, I think I do eat too much, that's okay. But remember, once you pull back, eating slowly and mindfully to let the messages come, you are going to feel extra hungry for a few days until your stomach gets a chance to go back to its regular size. That makes sense. Now, that's the quantity of food we put in, but what about the quality? That's a whole different affair. I think the best way to describe this is to consider what our ancestors, our great-grandparents, ate 100 years ago. They certainly weren't eating any amount of sugar, of trans fats and hydrogenated fats. They certainly weren't eating as regularly as we are. And of course, the human physique hasn't changed that much in 100 years. Therefore, it's up to us to really watch what we eat. And a really good rule of thumb is 3 meals a day, 2 simple fruit snacks, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, lots of water, and stop eating after 7:30 at night. At least 7:30 at night, depending on what time you go to bed at. 3 hours before bedtime, definitely. And that will see you in good stead with your stomach. If you find that you are obsessed with food and what you're putting into your stomach, again, just pull back. There are marvellous ways out there of us becoming aware of what we're eating, and there's motivation and there's Weight Watchers and there's all sorts of wonderful things, and they're great. But if you find yourself obsessing about what you're eating, that's not a balance that you really want in your life. Yes, attend these. Yes, if it motivates you, fantastic, and gives you that dynamism to, really get back on track, fabulous. But keep in mind that you want to be able to eat in your own home, to go to a supermarket, shop, or wherever you shop, locally would be great, to go to any restaurant or cafe and calmly scan the menu and go, there's a salad, that's healthy, that sounds good, yeah. Rather than panicking, what can I eat? How many calories in this? Breathe. So we need to train ourselves to know what suits our stomach. I'll give you an example. Some people love dry food. Some people love wet food. Some people adore lots of fruit in the morning only. Some people go, oh no, I'd have to have a cereal, a carbohydrate in the morning. Others might go, no, I like eggs, I like protein in the morning. It's up to you to feel into what suits you best, and then to feed yourself nourishing food. I'm going to give you an example of one of these wonder superfoods that you may be aware of, but you may not. This is called kimchi. It has a bit of an aroma now, but it is very palatable. And basically it comes from Korea. Kimchi is the name of it. And it's fermented vegetables. There's celery in there, there's definitely cabbage in there. And the German version would be sauerkraut. And it's on the lines of eating yogurt, and here in Ireland we would have had buttermilk. So in other words, it's a way for us to get the good gut bacteria into our systems. What do the ads say? The L-amino casein and such things. And basically you can have it at your lunch, you can have a spoonful of it mid-morning or wherever, and you get it in most supermarkets on the healthy aisle or dedicated local health shops. So I'd really recommend that. And you might prefer the sauerkraut, the fermented cabbage. But go in and ask them what they have. If you are not dairy intolerant, then a really good yogurt with those microorganisms will do. And I'm not sure many of us drink buttermilk these days, but if you do, that's the idea. These foods that have the microorganisms that can help digest our food well. That is a huge tip that really has made a big difference to me, as well as making sure that I eat before 7:30. However, I want to teach you something. Now, it's not often in this type of forum that I get to expose any part of my body, but in this case, I want to teach you a particular exercise that I learned many, many moons ago in a yoga class that is tried and tested. It comes way down the line from the yogis in India, and I've no doubt that many indigenous peoples in the world had their version. So you can do this for your stomach and you can do this for your abdomen. I'm going to show you both. Now here we go, above the stomach, watch this. Now a simple version of this is just to pulse your belly in and out, pulse your tummy in and out. But we'll take the stomach first because it's above the navel. So watch this. So all I'm doing there is sucking in my stomach muscles, releasing them, sucking them in. And these muscles sit on top of that bag that is inside. But I want to add something a little bit more exciting. Watch this. And I'll teach you all how to do it. So I'm going to bend over slightly, if you can watch me here. Now watch, I'm going to breathe out. I'm now going to suck in my stomach. And did you hear that kind of snorty effect? So watch out. I breathe out through my mouth. I pause, no breath, suck in the stomach muscles. And I hold it as long as I can. You could see that suction effect. And then when I need to breathe in, I breathe in through my nose, which has that little snorty effect. So let's do that once more. Number 1, breathe out through your mouth. Hold your breath out. Suck in the stomach muscles. And hear that snorty noise. Whoa. Okay, now let me apply this down to the belly below the navel. Same thing. I breathe out, number 1. Hold the breath out, suck in. And then I wait and I release. Once more, I'm going to do one for the stomach and one for the belly. And you can see actually when I do it for the belly, it has an effect on the stomach as well. Watch this. Breathe out. Suck in. Snort in through the nose and wait as long as you can. And then for the belly, and you can lean slightly over with the belly. And then suck in. Isn't that just fantastic? So this would be done, as you can imagine, before you eat, because your bag, your stomach and your abdomen are not full of food. Because if you imagine they were, it would be a bit uncomfortable. The secret is when you breathe out, close your nose and mouth. In fact, it even helps to hold your nose. Watch this. Now suck in your stomach. And breathe in that kind of snorty noise through the nose, keeping your mouth closed. So the secret of this is the work that you're doing with not having any breath in the body, and that creates that great suction effect. It's really working the muscles of the stomach, the tummy, and the muscles of the abdomen, the belly. Personally, I do 3 of these every morning as part of my morning ritual. So I do a little bit of meditation, I do my yoga stretches, and then I do this. And I find it marvellous. It makes such a difference. And I find, this is a charming subject, but let's face it, we are on the subject of digestive system, that I roll out of the bed, have a quick pee, brush my teeth, then I'm always half asleep when I'm doing my morning ritual. And then after this, then my body wants to evacuate and have a bowel movement for the day. Charming subject, but what it means is we should, if we have a healthy digestive system, automatically eliminate the previous day's food before we start eating for that day. It makes so much sense. And yet what often happens is we don't. We're constipated. We go down the stairs, we tuck into breakfast, we add more food on top of the previous day's food, and then we wonder when we're basically not in that cycle of food in and food out. But we're constipated, basically. And it just means that your body is probably dehydrated, so we need more water, but also we need to move the muscles of our body and get out there living the best life that we can live. So let me sum up everything that we've done so far. To have a trim tummy, to have a stomach that is in good, healthy working order and not bulging out because the bag is too big, we eat slowly and mindfully, hearing the body's message that we're 3/4 way full, and then we stop eating. 2, we are aware of what goes into that bag. Fresh, healthy food. You could have a look at it and say, is this going to help? Is this going to provide energy for my body? And if the answer is yes, eat it. And if the answer is no, then think twice about it. Treats, of course, are allowed, but in moderation. Number 3, do this little exercise every morning, 3 of them, or you might consider, a better time for me would be to do it just before lunchtime, or even just before dinner, before eating. Make sure that you get enough water into your system. And a really good little tip is to check that you are having your main bowel movement of the day in the morning, usually about 20 minutes after waking up, once you've got the body moving. So whether you call it your tummy, your stomach, or whatever you want to call it, your midriff, this is an important part of the body where your digestion really begins to take place. Yes, there's a little bit in the mouth and as it goes down, but this is where your food's going to sit for those 3 to 5 hours. And if you stuff the bag, then it's going to sit there for 5 to 8 hours, and then it slows everything down. And it means if your food moves smoothly through this area, then it'll flow through the small intestine, the large intestine, and then out it goes. Very, very important to look after our gut health. And these microorganisms, these fermented foods, really help. I particularly like this because it's vegetables, so I'm getting more of my 5 a day. But because I am dairy intolerant, yogurt isn't a really good fit for me. So I like that this has is an easy way of getting that inside me. And I have to say, it is quite palatable. Therefore, these are tips for you to consider. And you might think, oh, I love that, or I'm not sure about that. I'm doing that already. Yes. It's all about what you do. And if there's something that you don't feel like doing, that's fine. Just let it go and maybe come up with your version. And of course, remember to mind your precious self.